Hey y'all, I'm Kara, founder of Bravely Go, and today I'm going to share my plan to buy a house this year as an unmarried, self-employed person. Hit subscribe if you want to follow along with my house buying journey. Okay, let's start off with the numbers because I know that's what y'all care about and it's definitely what I care about. Without a doubt, buying a house is the more expensive choice for me. Right now, I'm a renter. I live in what is basically central Austin and I pay $549 a month in rent. I rent a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. It's lovely. I love being here. I did ask my landlord if I could buy this house and he laughed in my face. No, he didn't. He was very cute. He was like, "Thank you so much. I'm glad you love the house. I will be holding on to it." Right now, as a renter, I am not responsible for any maintenance. I don't have to do any yard work. All of that is taken care of because I'm a renter. So truly my out-of-pocket costs are just $549 a month. By buying a house, I'm not only going to be increasing that with my mortgage payment, which I estimate will be around $2,000 a month, but I'm also going to be responsible for those yard costs, for maintenance costs, for property taxes, and for all the other little hidden things that go into owning a home. Honestly, as someone who is deeply involved in the personal finance world, I am not evangelical about home ownership. I don't think it's the right choice for everyone, and I don't think it's the only path towards wealth. I think you can get very wealthy in the stock market, right? There's so many other ways to build wealth. However, it's undeniable that home equity has been the #1 way that most Americans have built wealth for themselves. My decision to buy a house, it's not really a financial one. It's 100% an emotional one. I'm at a point in my life where I want to own a home, so I just have this desire to own a home and make it my own. I want to have some land. It's really important to me to have space. And that's because after having lived through this pandemic, this ongoing pandemic, I should say, and when I think about the things that I value the most in life, it's time with friends and family, it's security, and it is being outside. I would love to have a piece of land with a house on it where I can shelter my friends in times of global crisis, a place where I can spend a lot of time outside doing gardening, hiking, doing whatever I want in nature, and just a place that is something that I'm sure is my own. So now let me walk you through my step-by-step plan to buy a house. Step 1, make a spreadsheet. So I first got into the world of personal finance through anxiety. I was really low income. I was only working very, very part-time. I had a bunch of student loan debt and money was just a huge problem in my life. And it was making me very anxious and low-key depressed. So I turned that anxiety into learning as much as I could about personal finance. And right now, I can definitely say that I'm feeling anxious about buying a house. It is the hottest housing market in the United States history. There's a lot of competition. Everything is very expensive. And buying a home is a very involved process. It's much more complicated than investing in the stock market. So I'm just feeling a little anxious about it. So the first thing I did was drop a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets, y'all. I love color coordinating my spreadsheets. I just love everything about them. And in my spreadsheet, I have information on the different zip codes I would be interested in buying in, the different floor plans, like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms I would be interested in owning. I have details in there like I don't want to be a member of an HOA. That's a no-go for me. And then I also have information on my finances, how much money I'm bringing to this whole process, how much of that will be split into the down payment, how much of that is for things like closing costs and the inspection. And then also I've allocated money for things like having the home cleaned before I move in, paying to have the locks changed, all of these other costs that we don't really think about as an expense when buying a house, but that add up. Truly buying a house is so much more than the down payment. I do feel like a lot of people who are a little more evangelical about real estate really focus on that down payment number. Like you can get a house for just 3% down or 0% down, but there are all these other costs that go into it. And as a personal finance nerd, I just want to make sure that I am being as smart and as organized about all of those costs so that nothing comes up and like bites me and ruins my home buying dream. And finally, I took a first-time homebuyer course. Something I love about the internet is that there is so much information available about really anything you want to learn. And as someone who is dealing with anxiety around buying a house, I decided that it would be good for me to take a home buyer course. So I found one called Homeschool that was created by two real estate agents and investors, both of whom are women, which you know I love, and the course was awesome. The course covers everything from first steps to take when you're just beginning to think about buying a home, like figuring out what kind of house you want, what area you want to be in, to how to assemble your real estate team, like finding a lender, finding a real estate agent, to how you can qualify for different types of loans, how much money you'll actually need to bring to put down, to even everything about making a competitive offer, which I found very valuable given the state of the United States housing market right now. The course really was a great fit. It took me about 2 hours, 2.5 hours to finish the whole thing. They have little like exercises at the end of chapters so that you have little homework, which I really appreciated. So I'll link to this course in the description if you want to check it out. Now let's talk about the numbers, like the big numbers behind how I'm gonna buy this house. I have been saving for a house for about 6 years. I started saving for this house before I even started Bravely, before I started the business. And when I was still catering and nannying and doing a whole bunch of different part-time jobs, I started setting aside money for my someday home. And I'm so glad I did that. Right now, I have about $60,000 saved. My goal is to have $65,000 total to pay for the down payment and the closing costs. So I won't be putting $65K down. I hope to put no more than 10% down on my house. Ideally, I would love to be putting between like 30 and 40 down, paying anywhere between 6 and 8K in closing costs. And so that means that I would then have a little extra cash that can go to things like repairs or to paying the first month's mortgage. Additionally, I have also put some money aside in a separate account for things like renovations. I definitely know that I want a house in areas that there aren't very many like turnkey properties. So I am anticipating having to do things like getting the floors refinished, definitely painting some walls. Of course, I'm gonna have to furnish the home. So I've got my $60,000 goal of $65,000 for the down payment and closing costs. And then I have an additional savings account for things like renovation and furnishing the home. My goal for this additional savings account is $20,000. I'm just not really willing to put in more than $20,000 in the first year anyway. Like, this is part of the reason it's taken me so long to buy a house, is when I say all these numbers out loud, you know, this is $85,000 that I'm just putting into this, yes, asset, but such an illiquid asset. It's very difficult to get your money out of a house once it's gone into it. And I just like, I find that a little frustrating. But I'm gonna do it. I'm excited about doing it. Don't come for me, real estate nerds. Just don't do it. I'm also really realistic about how much time and money I'm willing to put into a house. If I can't find a house that fits in my budget, I'm okay continuing to rent. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a renter. My life is great right now as a renter, and if I keep on keeping on with that, great. So what are my next steps? This is just the beginning of my home buying journey. I will be updating y'all as I go along and as I check different things off the list. Let me know in the comments if there's certain parts of my journey that you definitely want me to make a video about or you have questions about, especially if you're self-employed, because I don't feel like there are that many resources for self-employed people looking to buy a home. To recap, here's what I've done thus far. I have saved $60,000 for my down payment. My goal is to have $65,000. I have made a spreadsheet with all of my anticipated costs, my desired locations, and what I want specifically from the house itself. And I have taken Homeschool, a first-time homebuyers online course created by two badass women in real estate. That's it, y'all. Like I said, drop any questions in the comments for me. Please give this a like if you enjoyed our video, and make sure to subscribe to see the next steps in my home buying journey.